Hey everyone, this is Dawn. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to show you how to do a whole bunch of different techniques with embossing folders. Okay, some of them are close to my heart, some of them are not, and I'll tell you what's what as we go. Okay, so I've pulled a bunch of the close to my heart embossing folders that are still available in my online store, and we'll use some of those. And then I have a couple of 3D embossing folders that I'm going to use as well. So I have some white cardstock and black cardstock, and we're going to start with the floral slimline embossing folder. So I have a piece of white cardstock cut at a slimline size, and I'm going to do some ink blending. So you'll notice that I have a couple of different bases for my cardstock to sit on. This particular one, it's the Brutus Monroe stick and stamp. There's a variety of products out there to keep your cardstock secure while you're blending. And then I just decided to use some ink colors from Timholtz Distress ink. You certainly can use Close to My Heart inks, just whatever you decide. I thought I would play today and get my Distress inks out with some blending brushes. Okay, so I've started with Forest Moss, and then I went into Rustic Wilderness, and then I'm going to use some Squeezed Lemonade. That's quite bright, so I'll probably tone it down just a little bit. And then the next one that I'll do in the right corner is Crushed Olive. So I'm just doing a ink blend from greens to yellows. And really, you can choose whatever colors you want, and it looks like a mess right now, but don't worry. Okay, so this is the slimline embossing folder. So I'm going to do a deboss. Okay, so I've got the raised edges that I'm working with. Okay, and then I'm just going to run some Versamark ink over this half of the embossing folder and let the ink catch on those raised ridges. And then I'll have to go back and do a lot of touch-ups with the embossing pen, but we'll get there in a second. So I'm hitting my inked piece with some anti-static powder, and I probably should have hit it with a heat tool also, because the ink, it really takes it a little bit to dry. So make sure it's completely dry and then hit it with your anti-static. And I'm going to work in sections and sprinkle embossing powder and then heat it up, and then touch it up with the next section up with my Close to My Heart embossing pen. Just make sure there's enough ink in each of those wells to catch the embossing powder. So I'm just kind of tracing over, and then I'll sprinkle embossing powder and then heat it up. Okay, so now my panel is all done, and I know it still looks like a mess, but just wait. I've got a brayer and some chipped sapphire. When you're using a brayer, make sure you go in the one direction. Don't go back and forth with the roll. Just roll away from you or towards you. Just choose which way you want to do it and stick with it. So I'm going away. So ink it up away and then push it away. So push it away, pick it up, pull it back, and start over. And just keep going in the same direction so the ink lays down the same way that you picked it up. So I'm just going over my panel with chipped sapphire, and those debossed areas that were clear embossed are going to resist, and then you'll see the pattern. So this is kind of a Joseph's coat technique using an embossing folder rather than stamps. Okay, and then I'll bring in cleaning cloth and just buff everything out and brighten up those embossed sections. Okay. And then I thought it would look cool if I brought some, we'll get a close-up shot here, if I brought in some perfect pearls. This is just a fine mica powder that leaves a pearlescent finish, and you just brush it on, and then you'll buff it out after you get as much powder on it as you want, and then buff it out all the extra, and it leaves behind a pearlescent finish, and it's really cool. It looks like it toned everything down on camera, but in real life it looks really cool. Okay, so let's make a card out of this. I've cut out the base in grape with the slimline stitched card front, and then I'm using the layered butterflies and butterfly layers thin cuts to create a bunch of butterflies in lemonade and grape, and I'm just layering them all up. These two thin cut sets are still available, so I'll leave links in the description below and you can do a little shopping. So I'm just layering everything up with wet glue, and then I'm going to do a little surgery to the butterfly body of this thin cut because it was from one of the sets and I'm using it on the other set. And I want the body to be black, so I'm just cutting off the little antenna and then paper piecing everything. And I'm making double layers for the butterflies, the base with the yellow. Then I'm going to bring in some foiled sentiments. These are from Pink Fresh and also from Spellbinders, and I'll leave information in the description below. And I like to keep just a bowl of sentiments on my desk. When you make these, they cut in one big page or one single cut, and you get all those little sentiments. So it's nice because then you have lots of extras. Okay, so I'm going to layer this up on a slimline card base, and when I'm using embossed pieces, I like to use wet glue to add those pieces to my card front so that I don't press out any of the embossing by using the tape runner. So I'm adding my embossed piece, and then we'll go ahead and start adding all the different components to the card. So I'm going to pop everything with thin foam tape, and yes, it's back in stock. We got more, so I'll leave a link below. It's one of my favorite products. It's just thin enough to give that little extra something, just a little lift. So I'll add those, and then I'm going to scatter some of these Spellbinders discs around. These are the rose discs, and they're like sequins, but they don't have the hole in the center, so they look really cool. So I've got those scattered around the front, and my card's all finished. And here's some close-up shots. So make sure that you stick around for the last couple of cards. They're my favorite. They turned out so pretty, so hang in there. Okay, actually they're all really pretty, but my favorites are the ones at the end of the video. Okay, next embossing folder we're going to use are the cascading dots, and I'm using a new product. This is from Simon Hurley and Ranger, and it's called solarpaste. You may have seen a video that I did with the lunarpaste, and I'll have another couple of examples coming up, but this is the new product called solarpaste. So it has a white paste base to it, but then each paste color, it takes on some luminescence and it catches the light in a certain way. And the best color to use this on is black cardstock. You can use it on white, but it really turns out to be like pastel, and it's got the qualities of iridescence, so it looks sort of opalescent in white when you use it on white cardstock. So my favorite way to use it is on black because it's just stunning. And when it dries, this one is called Beluga, and so it's got this blue finish to it. It's so pretty. Okay, so this has been drying for a while and it's ready to go. So I'm going to pop it into that Cascading Dots embossing folder and run it through, and check this out. Look at how the embossed areas just catch the light. It's really stunning. Okay, so let's make a card. So again, I'm going to use the Pink Fresh sentiments that I have hot foiled in gold on black, and they're stacked as well. And then my base is black, and then we'll go ahead and add that solar paste piece and keep it clean and simple. I'll try to remember to link a video where I've done some hot foil projects with my glimmer machine, so you can see how that process is done. Okay, so I have used the For You thin cut set, and I have cut the word think 3 times and stacked them. It's in black cardstock, and stacking the layers gives it a little dimension and strength. And then I have cut the word You twice in white and once in silver glitter paper. I'm going to keep this one nice and simple just so you can really see that solar paste. It looks so cool. So I've lined all those up. I like to start with the O in the center and then put the other letters down around it to center it properly. Okay, so here's some close-up shots. So pretty. Stunning in real life. Okay, so let's make another one. Now this one's with the lunarpaste, okay? So this one is called Psych. Thanks, Simon Hurley. It's gold. So it's a gold with kind of a, I don't know, at certain angles, it sort of has a green gold tinge to it. It's hard to explain, and you might see it in some of the close-up shots at the end. But anyway, it's a really pretty gold. And I'm just going to spread that out. Again, I'm going to use black, my favorite way to use this paste. And I'm just spreading a really thin layer to basically create a piece of foil paper with it. Foil in a jar, right? So I'm just spreading it out nicely so I have a nice thin, even layer. And then we'll set it aside to dry. Okay, so the next embossing folder I'm going to use is the Sunbeam embossing folder, and my paste piece is nice and dry, and I'm going to pop that in and run it through and check that out. So cool. Okay, so let's make a card. I have a base of black, and it's a A2 card, and I'm going to use this thanks die. So I've cut it out 3 times in black cardstock and stacked them, and then the base I've cut out in some Lawn Fawn iridescent vellum paper. And then we can go ahead and start building our card. Again, I'm going to keep this nice and simple and clean so that the attention is really on that pretty background. It's just stunning. Okay, so we'll go ahead and add that with some glue. And then when you add something with vellum, make sure that you place your glue just on the parts that cannot be seen. So I'll turn this over and then aim my glue just for those black letters. And then we'll go ahead and add that to the card front. And then I'm going to scatter some crystals around. These are from Buttons Galore and More, and these are the clear ones. So you can also use some of the clear sparkles as well if you wanted to use those, but I thought these look cool on that gold. And there's my finished card. So pretty. Okay, next one is the Botanicals embossing folder, and I've got some of this black ore cardstock, and it's got this kind of pearlescent shimmery look to it, and it's nice and thick. So I'm going to spritz the back of it with just some water, a nice fine mist of water to soften up the paper, so it'll run through that embossing folder and give a nice impression. Okay, so I'm going to use the solar paste again. I thought I was going to use the green, but then after I got finished, I decided to just leave the gold, and I'm just going to do some finger painting here. So just picking out some of the paste, and I'm just painting on each of these blossoms with this gold paste. Pretty simple. They're raised ridges, and so just add some gold carefully on those areas. And then you have your nice background. Okay, so I have a base of mulberry. You can really choose whatever colors you like. I thought these look nice together. So I have a base of mulberry cardstock, and then I'll stack that embossed piece on top. And then I've cut some of those butterflies out with mulberry glitter paper, and then stacked a black detail die over it. And then again, I'm going to use one of those hot foil sentiments. And this one is the thanks die, so this one's from the Spellbinder set. I'll go ahead and pop everything with some thin foam tape, and then I'm going to scatter some more of those crystals around. one of my favorite products. I use them all the time. They're from Buttons Galore and More, and they are the Jewels mix. So these kind of have a red purplish tone to them. So I have a whole bunch scattered around. And check out that embossing from that embossing folder on that black ore paper. It's just stunning. I've used that word a lot today, but it's true. Okay, let's do some ink blending. So now I've brought in my waffle flower mat, really whatever base you could tape everything to your desk, whatever you want to do to keep your paper, your cardstock from shifting around. So I've used a couple of different things. I just have to carry everything into the bathroom next door to wash everything in between. So that's why I'm using a couple different products. So I'm using some distressing. So I'm starting out with Persimmon, and then I'll go into Abandoned Coral, and then I laid down some squeezed lemonade, and you'll see in a second it's quite bright. So I decided to go over that with some mustard seed and tone it down just a little bit and get a nicer blend between the orange and the yellow. But this panel turned out really pretty, I think, the color blends. Okay, so now I'm going to bring in a 3D embossing folder. So this one is called Dandelion Wish. It's from Sizzix, and I'm going to use my brayer and lay down some Lumberjack Plaid on the debossed portion of the embossing folder. So the areas around the images are going to be covered with ink. Okay, so we'll give it a spritz, nice fine mist of water, and then we'll place our inked piece in the embossing folder, and check this out. Oh my goodness, look how amazing that looks. See, I didn't use stunning. Amazing. I was just like, oh my gosh, that's so pretty. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and show you how to make a card with this. And again, I'm going to keep it clean and simple because I just want that background to be the star. Okay, so I have a card base along with some black cardstock, and these are A2 cards, by the way, so they're 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And I'm just going to layer in one of those butterflies that is with Sundance in black, and then some more of these crystals from Buttons Galore and More, and these are the gold crystals. So pretty. And that sentiment is from Pink Fresh Studios, the hot foil set. It's called Perfect Sentiments. So pretty. This is one of my favorites, if you couldn't tell. Okay, next card. I'm bringing back that Bruce Monroe mat, and really you can use whatever you like. And I'm going to do another blend. This is Mermaid Lagoon, and it is picking up some of that ink that was still, see, I didn't clean this one properly. It's picking up some ink that was left on the mat, but that's no big deal. It works, so I'm not worried about it. So I'm going to blend in some Mermaid Lagoon, and then I'm going to go into Cracked Pistachio, and then follow up with some Twisted Citron. So just going back and forth. And again, I'm not too worried about the colors blending together, because you'll see in a few minutes what I'm going to do with this. I'm going in with the Twisted Citron, and then I decided it was kind of blending a little too much with that cracked pistachio, so I'm going to follow up with a little squeezed lemonade to brighten it up a bit. Sometimes it's too bright, sometimes it's not bright enough, so I'm going to add some of that yellow. Okay. All right, I think I like that now. So I have Uncharted Mariner, and then this embossing folder is called Folk Doodle. And I'm going to use my brayer with Uncharted Mariner. And again, I'm adding ink to the debossed side so that the areas around the design are picking up ink. And just getting it nice and inked up with that Uncharted Mariner. That's one of my favorite colors. Kind of a dark teal It reminds me of Close My Heart Peacock. Okay, so I'll give it a light mist of water, and then we'll put our inked piece in and run it through and check this out. Oh my gosh. Look at how pretty that is. Wow. Okay, let's make a card. All right, I'm going to frame it in black, and then I've cut this layered butterfly with Lagoon. It's the light side of Lagoon, and I'm going to use Sending Hugs from the Pink Fresh Perfect Sentiments foiled collection, and keep it nice and clean and simple. So we'll add each of those elements to the front of the card. And because there's so much raised embossing in this card, I'm just attaching everything with glue. And then I decided to go ahead and add a little sparkle to my butterfly. So I'm carefully tracing over the black with a clear shimmer brush. And you'll see in the close-up shots, it really does make a difference. It just adds a little sparkle. And then I'm going to add some more of these crystals. Now these kind of have a purpley blue, black look to them. And they're from Buttons Galore and More. And there's my finished card. So pretty. I really hope you give this technique a try. You can use whatever embossing folders you want. The 3D embossing folders, they really do give this wow factor. But the same technique works on a regular embossing folder as well. Just have to carefully lay that color down. Okay, last card. This is such a cool embossing folder. It's from Timholtz, and it's called Tree Rings. And I'm going to ink it up with walnut stain ink. And the cardstock, I don't know if I mentioned, the cardstock I'm using is kraft paper. So I'm just going to ink up the debossed side of this embossing folder really well. And again, we'll mist it finely with some water and pop that kraft paper in. And check this out. Oh my gosh, it looks like a real piece of wood. I wish you could feel this in person. Get this embossing folder and try it. It's so cool. Okay, I had to run down and show my husband. It was amazing. So I'm using a new die set. This is called Layered Trees, Lovely Layers Trees. It's from Honeybee Dies or Honeybee Stamps. And it comes with all different parts to create some trees. And I have trimmed down that wood piece to 4 by 5 1/4, and I'm going to layer it on mocha. Okay, so I've got all of my components for these trees cut out. I've used harbour and pine and sage, and it kind of looks like a Colorado blue spruce. To me it does. So I'm going to layer everything together. So it comes, you can add the tree trunk in the middle there, and then the piece that is cut open, you can see the tree trunk in between, just like a real tree. And I'm going to stack a couple of these so that they're a little bit stronger. I went to town cutting out all those pieces, and they are embossed as well. So if you've got the rubber embossing layer for your Spellbinders Platinum, you can run it through again and get some embossing in between those cut pieces. So I'll have to do another video again and run some ink with a brayer over it. I bet it'll look really cool. But anyway, I just went ahead and did the embossing on them and kept it clean without ink. And I'm just stacking. I had an extra piece of that sage and just stacking for strength and then adding it so that they feel like chipboard. Thanks, Jess, my friend Jess. I stole that idea from her to stack your cut pieces so they have more strength and they feel like chipboard pieces. It works. Okay, so I'm just going to layer everything up and then cluster those trees. And then I'll add my sentiment. We'll keep it clean and simple. So a few of them I have popped with foam tape, and when you layer them to keep them on the same plane, use foam tape on part, and if you're going to have part of it over another piece, foam tape and glue, and just combine them both. And there's that finished card. So I will make a list of all of the supplies that I used. It's going to be a long one in the description below. And you can do a little shopping. Some of these products are older, some are brand new, some are close to my heart, and some are not. So I hope you've enjoyed my video. If you did, give me a thumbs up. I know it was long, and thanks for hanging in there. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please hit that subscribe button. I would really appreciate it. And thanks for watching.